Today we're going to learn how you can take a macro that you've created in Fusion, package it up, and install it on any number of workstations that you want so that you can reuse them. Now, part of this packaging process is this. If you come up to the effects panel, and let's say you click on titles and just scroll down and look at some of the titles that come with Resolve, each effect or template or macro has a name, but it also has a little thumbnail. And when you scrub your mouse over this and just scrub left and right, it'll give you a demo of what that effect will do. And this is what we want to replicate, having the name and the thumbnail, and when you hover scrub, you'll get to see a demo of it. But better still, when you expand, let's say, the titles, on a typical install of DaVinci Resolve, it'll just have titles. But I've licensed some effects from Motion VFX, and we've also created our own for Socratica. And as you can see, like here, if you expand Socratica, there's a bin or folder for effects. And one of the effects is this orange frame effect. And I was able to create this, add a own custom thumbnail, bundle it up so that, if I change computers or someone else is helping me on this, then they can just install this as well, and we can all be working with the same macros. So this is what I want to show you how to do today. So we will start with a quick macro, but we're going to learn how to make the thumbnail, bundle it, and distribute it. This is what we're going to make. We are going to make a title that has the font and the thickness and the color and the glow effect that we'd like. So with that in mind, let's get started. Let's come to the Fusion page. And if you open up Templates, Edit, and Titles, this is where you'll see, well, these are all the ones that I've licensed from Motion VFX, and these are the custom ones. But at the bottom here, you have the standard DaVinci Resolve ones. And we are going to take this, let's see, which one is it? The text box. Let's bring that down here, and it'll give us our media out. That's good. And let's take a look and see what this looks like. By default, everything's white and it's rectangular. So let's begin the process of modifying this. We will change the font to, let's say, Roboto. And instead of bold, let's make it medium. And if you expand this, you can change the color of the box. And let's make it a deep red. And next is we're going to make the corner radius. We're going to max out the corner radius. So we have these semicircular end pieces. And let's adjust the width so maybe it's not quite as thick. There we go. The next thing we want to do is add a glow effect. So I'm going to select the text box, shift space, type in glow. So let's take this glow effect now, and we're going to adjust the gamma. That'll give us a really nice large glow area. But for the color, let's change to use the color of the border, that red. So there we go. We have our sample text, we have a glow effect, we've rounded the sides and everything. Next, let's change this to insert text here so that whenever you drag this onto a timeline, you'll be reminded that you need to insert text there. So here we go. Here is our macro. Let me dial up the gamma a little bit more. And also you can adjust the brightness of the glow with the gain dial. Let's make this macro. So it's a simple 2-node macro. We're not going to include media out. So we're going to select them, right click, come up to create macro, and let's give this a name, and let's call it glowing title. Next, we're going to select the controls that we want people to have access to when they're using this macro. Before we do that, I'm just going to go through all these red folders, if you will, because those are the ones where a control is checked. There we go. Now what we want people to be able to change is the text that's inside. That's part of the text box one. And if you come underneath controls, you'll see style text. We don't want people, let's say you don't want to worry about the font or the style of the font or the color. You only want people to change what appears in the center. So that's one control that'll be available to them. And also, actually, let's rename that control. Instead of style text, let's just have title. Next, let's come down to the glow node and say you might want to give people the ability to adjust how glowy it is. So let's click on the glow node, and it's the gamma here that allows us to really change how glowy something is. So we are going to select the gamma control, And we're going to rename it not gamma, which is like a colorist term. We're going to call it glowiness. And then lastly, we want to include the output of the last node in our composition that goes into media out. So we also want the output. So there we go. We have selected the two controls that people will see, the text and the glowiness. And then also we've included the output. We've changed it, and now let's close. And do we want to save it? Yes. And we will leave the name as is, and that is glowingtitle.setting. Okay, let's select all these nodes and delete them and see how well our setting file works. Okay, here's my Windows Explorer with my glowingtitle.setting file. If I drag and drop that in, you can see, let's display it. It has the two controls that we selected, the glowiness, which you can adjust, and then the text here, a new message. So it works just like we want. Now what we need to do is bundle this up and create a thumbnail. So let's first learn how to bundle it. If you come up to Help, Documentation Developer, it will open up to the folders on your system that contain an important README file. We're going to go into Fusion templates because that's what we're working on today. And there's a readme.txt. If you open that up, and let's enlarge this a bit, there's a lot of very useful information here for people who want to create your own custom templates. If you scroll down, it will let you know where to put certain things on your computer. Template paths. I'm on Windows, but pick whichever system you're on, and I'm going to select this path for specific users. And now we're going to go and travel to that folder. I'm just going to replace username with Socratica. There we go. What this does is it shows you the folder structure that you will need to use in building your bundle. In fact, let's go up a folder. So if I go up, I'm now in the templates folder. You'll see there's two folders, Edit and Fusion. And then there's a lot of DRFX files, some that I've licensed from Motion VFX. And then there's the one that we use here at Socratica, Socratica.drfx. DRFX stands for DaVinci Resolve Effects. It's nothing more than a zip file, except instead of zip, they use DRFX. We are interested in creating our own templates. And so if you go, and we're making this for the edit page. So if you come over to the edit page and you come up and look at the effects window, you'll see underneath Toolbox, there's 5 subfolders. One of them is for audio, the audio transitions. We're not working with audio because we're making Fusion compositions. So there's video transitions, titles, generators, and effects. If you come back over here, you will see there's transitions, titles, generators, and effects. And they're all in an edit folder. So what we're going to do is, let me make room for another window. Here we go. And this is where our setting file is. So this could be wherever you want. In fact, I'm going to make a new folder called Anywhere, just to show that you don't have to be in that folder. You can be anywhere you want on your computer here. So, but we now need to copy the folder structure that Fusion expects when you give it a zip file. So if we come up to the templates folder, this is where you're going to put your zip file. I'm going to call them zip file, although the extension is DRFX. They're just zip files. So the two folders they have are Edit and Fusion. So let's recreate this folder structure. So I'm going to make a new folder. One will be called Edit. I'm going to make another folder, and I'm going to call this one Fusion. Now, if you go into the Fusion folder, there's nothing there. But if you go into Edit, you'll see there are 4 subfolders. So let's go into Edit and recreate these subfolders. There is an Effects subfolder, a Generators subfolder, a Titles subfolder, and finally, a Transitions subfolder. What we've made right now is a title, but when you come back and look at the effects window, if you expand titles, you have to decide, do you want it to appear when you click on titles, or would you like to have your own folder structure beneath that? Let's create a folder structure beneath that. In fact, we're going to make underneath Socratica a folder called Demo. So let's add a few more folders so that we're matching our folder structure to what is appearing in the effects panel. Okay, so we're going to go into titles, and I'm going to make a new folder called Socratica. And we're going to go in here and make a new folder called demo. And that's where we're going to put our glowy thing. So I'm going to come back up here where the glowing title.setting file is. I'm just going to cut it. And we're going to come in here to the titles, Socratica, demo, and we're going to paste it there. Now let's hop back up to the top of where we started all this folder creation. So here is our edit and fusion folders. So I'm going to select everything, right click, and send to zip file, compressed zip folder. Interesting. It's not allowing me to add multiple folders, in which case, let's go ahead and delete that. We're not going to add fusion because almost everything you'll want to do is inside edit anyway. So there we go. We have now edit, our 4 folders, and it continues there. So we're going to select edit, right click, send to, and compress to zip folder. This is on Windows. If you're on Mac or Linux, you'll do something similar. And I'm going to call this macro demo. There we go. So now we have our zip folder. We're ready to install it. How do we do that? If you come back to Resolve, go to the Fusion page, and you just drag and drop that over. That's pretty much it. It's now installed. So let's actually see if it's installed. If we come over to the edit page, we're not seeing the demo subfolder, so let's do the old turn it off and on again. I'll be back in just a second. And we're back. Now, I noticed something went awry. If I expand titles, Socratica, I notice there's no demo folder. And I just now realized what I did incorrectly. If you come back to the zip file that we made, it's macrodemo.zip. I forgot to rename the extension to DRFX. So if you don't do that, it won't install. So I'm going to rename this to DRFX. Do we want to change it? We really do. Now we're going to install the DRFX file, not the zip file. We're now back on the Fusion page. We're going to drag and drop this into the node editor. And you now will get a pop-up. Now it realizes it's a DRFX file. It's a zip file, but with that extension, and that means you do want to install it. It's asking if you want to install this or put it in that folder with all the other DRFX files. And we do. So let's install. And now we may not have to reboot to see the change. Let's see what happens. If we come over to Edit, Expand Titles, Socratica, we did not have to reboot. There's Demo, Glowing Title. If we drag this in, scoot it over a little bit, and play back, there we go. There is our nice macro. The glowiness tool is there, and we can change the text to this. A really cool title. The only thing missing really is if you come back and look at the effects is we don't have a thumbnail yet. So we're going to do that next. Before we do that though, we're going to come back up to Help, to Documentation, to Developer, go into Fusion Templates and open the README one more time. This file contains not just the paths to where the DRFX files go and other tips on creating your own custom templates, but if you scroll down, it will also contain some information on how to create your icons. They call them template icons, but that's what they call the thumbnail that appears in the effects panel. And the size is 104 by 58. Not a lot of room to work with, but you can still make some pretty neat stuff with that. By way of demonstration, you come over here, you can see how much information you can put in a 104 by 58 image. Now what we want to do is create a thumbnail for this macro. So to do that, I'm going to just click on the layer here, and I'm just going to type in the word title. And this is the image I'm going to use as the starting point for the thumbnail. So I'm just going to screenshot this. There we go. And now I'm going to hop over to Adobe Photoshop to edit this into a 104 by 58 image. Okay, here we are. If I look at the current image size, I am at 477 by 278. So I'm just going to, let's see, if I change it to 104, that's actually, I actually was pretty good at getting a roughly 2 by 1 screen sample. So I'm just going to resize it. And that's how small the thumbnail is going to look. So what I'm going to do is just enlarge this, and then we just need to do a little more trimming so that it's 104 by 58. So I'll end up having to crop just a few pixels. Here's 104 by 56, 7, 8. There we go. Image, crop. There we go. That's how small it is, but when you look at it, you can still see that it says title, and you can kind of see the effect that we created. So I'm just going to come up here and export this. Okay. To save the image, you want to save the image in the same folder as the setting file. So I'm going to go into Edit, Titles, Socratica, Demo. Now, what we called this, let me just go ahead and just save this as thumbnail, and we'll rename it separately. We now have our little image. We just need to rename it, rebundle it, reinstall it, and everything will be good. Okay, here we are in the folder that we worked with earlier. Let's go into Edit, Titles, Socratica, Demo. We now have our two files. We have glowingtitle.setting and thumbnail.png. We need to match the names perfectly, including spaces. So here we have glowing title without any spaces. And so I'm going to rename this to glowingtitle.png. The only thing that's different is the extension, a setting file and an image file. We're going to now hop back up and we're going to make a new DRFX file. Let's delete this old one. Click on Edit, Send to Zip File. I'm going to call this My Macros. It doesn't have to be the same name. The zip file isn't really important. Before we can install this, we have to change the extension. I made that mistake the first time. I'm not going to repeat it. So I'm going to rename this to mymacros.drfx. Please change it. Now, to install it, I'm going to come over to the Fusion page, and I'm just going to drag and drop this into the node editor. I will get a prompt asking, do you want to install this? I do. I think I may have made one other little gotcha, but in a way, these gotchas I think are helpful because it brings up one more little detail which you may encounter when you're on your own doing this. If I come over to the edit page, up to Titles, Socratica, Demo, you'll notice we have two. One has the thumbnail, one does not. This comes back to the DRFX files. We use different names for the first one and for the second one. And when you drag and drop them into the Fusion page, into the node editor, basically all it's doing is copying that into the same folder where Resolve keeps the DRFX files. So let's go back to Windows Explorer. So what I'm going to do now to fix this is we want to delete the first DRFX file and keep the second. Now this is where the Help Documentation Developer is helpful. It lets you know where to go looking for these things. Open up the README file, scroll down to find where on your particular system you should look for the Fusion templates and where they're stored. I'm going to copy that, paste it in here, and I'm going to go into the Socratica folder, Socratica username. There we go. Now I'm going to go up. This is where the DRFX files are kept. There's macro demo, which was the first one that we did, and then there was my macros as well. The first one that we made was macro demo, so I'm just going to delete that. And now we're just left with my macros. Let's close this. Now, you may have noticed the effects panel updated itself in the background once I deleted that old DRFX file. Let's see if everything's good now. Underneath titles, there's the Socratica folder. Under demo, we now just have that one title, glowing title, and it has this lovely little thumbnail. And look at that. If you hover scrub, it gives you a demo of your macro. So these are all some of the surprise gotchas on renaming the zip file and making sure that if you do change the name of the DRFX folder, you'll have to delete any older ones that you have. And how do you find where to put these things? It's by looking at that Help Documentation Developer and looking at the README file. And the main thing is, I would say, is recreating the folder structure from Edit, Transitions, Titles, Generators, Effects, creating any subfolders that you want, putting your setting file in there, and making sure the image thumbnail, which is the correct size, 104 by 58, that it has the same name, not the same extension, just the same name as the setting file. So you'll have a setting file and a thumbnail image. Zip everything together, rename it, drag and drop it, and there you go. You now have your own custom macros with your own name and your own thumbnail. And all you have to do now is to distribute this, is to share that DRFX file with friends, colleagues, or you can even sell them online and share them online with other developers around the world. I hope this helps, and I will see you in the future.